So I came up with some examples that I want to share with you guys on what a narcissist, especially a covert narcissist, is going to say to manipulate you in any situation. I was in my relationship with a covert narc for 18 years and married for 13 years. And now I see really everything so much more clearly. So here's a list of examples I put together that I could come up with. If you guys know of any others, feel free to leave it down in the comments. You're crazy. There's something wrong with you. You don't make any sense. I'm the only one who will ever tolerate you because nobody's ever going to want you. Look at you. This whole thing is your fault. Your fault. Your fault. Everybody knows how you are. And when I tell them stuff about you, they agree. So I'm not the only one who thinks like this. What would you do without me? You need me in your life. You can't do anything on your own. You know what it is? It's just I'm smarter than you. I know more than you. I know how the brain works. You wouldn't get things like this. Nope, that never happened. You're imagining things. Again, that never happened. I don't remember that. You know what the problem is? The problem is you. The problem is you. Yeah, no, because if you listen to me, we wouldn't be where we are. We'd be fine. 99% of relationship would be great if you listen to me. You've never done anything for me. You say you have, but I don't feel like you do anything for me. The reason I cheated was because you just never listened to me. You know, I need to be heard, and I don't feel heard with you. And she makes me feel heard. I feel good when I'm out there. You know, when I'm out there, I feel good. But when I'm here with you make me feel horrible. You make me feel terrible about myself. If you gave me what I need and what I want, then maybe I would treat you better. I need to have my needs met. Yeah, you wouldn't understand. You don't understand things like this. Leave it up to me. I'm smart. I know things like this. You wouldn't get it. You see how you act? Look at you. You can't even control yourself. Just calm down. Talk. Stop interrupting me. Stop yelling. You're acting crazy. You have no self-control. You need help. You need therapy. You need some help. Seriously. You need help.
That made me feel so triggered because I have definitely heard some of that before. And it made me feel so angry. In those moments when those conversations were happening, when someone is trying to make you feel like you don't have any value and what you're saying doesn't make sense, and they are the one who they know everything, and you just need to shut up and basically listen to them and let them have their way. I have been there.
Here are three examples of what gaslighting looks like. So, gaslighting is a psychological manipulation where one person is trying to sow seeds of doubt into their partner, and they're trying to make them question their own memory, their perception, or their sanity. Oftentimes, this is seen in narcissistic relationships or with narcissists because this is how they gain control in the relationship. So, the first one is denying something that definitely happened. So, an example of this could be like you and your partner had a huge argument, and maybe they called you names or said something. And then the next day, when you try to confront them, they completely deny that ever happened. They try to say that you were crazy, you heard wrong. That's not what happened. I never said that. And then what that causes you to do is go, oh my God, did I make this up? Is there something wrong with me? You start to discredit your own fucking reality. And then you don't hold boundaries because now that person has just made you feel like you're the crazy one. Two, trivializing your feelings or emotions. An example of that could be that your partner says something to you that hurts you, and you express yourself saying, hey, that really hurt my feelings. And instead of them acknowledging and saying, hey, so sorry, didn't mean to hurt your feelings, didn't mean to say it that way, they start to say, you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, you're making a big deal out of nothing. They might say things like, you're super dramatic, can't you take a joke? And again, it avoids taking accountability because God forbid somebody say, hey, you're right, I did hurt you, didn't mean to. And three, shifting blame and undermining your thoughts. A great example of this is you think and you suspect that your partner is cheating on you. And when you try to talk to them and say something, instead of understanding your concerns and maybe having a conversation about it, they accuse you of being paranoid, untrusting. They say that it's your insecurity, you're the problem in the relationship. They might even turn the tables on you and say that you're cheating. That way they can project it and deflect it off of them and onto you so that they don't have to take any accountability.
So we've all have heard about gaslighting before, and people throw it around all the time, but it's actually not just a buzzword. It's an actual psychological manipulation tactic that really can damage the mental health of someone. And the worst part about it is that it's so subtle. It's the subtle things that make you feel like, did I really hear that? Am I overreacting, when you are actually reacting in a normal type of way to some abnormal type of situation. If they make backhanded jokes and you try to confront them on it and they're just like, oh, it was just a joke, why do you take everything so serious? No, you are actually reacting in a normal way to a really messed up situation. And I think it's our responsibility to know about all of these tactics so that we can save ourselves and maybe save someone else from emotional abuse. At the start of many relationships, everything is great, everybody's putting their best foot forward, and then slowly they start to undermine your intelligence, or they start to undermine you in different ways till you start to feel less confident in yourself. And because of those seeds of doubt, you start to actually believe that you are less confident and less deserving than you actually are. You start walking on eggshells around him because you're afraid to express yourself, because you have been trained by him to believe that you hear things that weren't really said, you overreact to situations. And once you start to believe that, you are going to suppress your feelings and your emotions every time you actually feel the need to speak up for yourself.
Somebody asked me what I thought about their man getting on social media, messaging all these women, having conversations, walking the conversation right up to where they commit to have a hookup. But then he backs down. And when caught, he says that it's just spam, it's just AI, all the excuses in the book. Here's what I think that some men try to convince you that you start arguments, pick fights, if you will. And what that really means to most of these guys, you're getting very close to catching them in a lie. So, in order to create a diversion to get you to back off, they have to convince you that you're crazy. These men will accuse you of starting fights whenever you ask them some type of question. Whenever you're being too invasive or when you're too close to the truth. And then they will gaslight the ever loving shit out of you into submission, getting you to apologize to them for getting too close, for catching them, for doing you dirty. Is that not crazy? And then once they finally get you to submit in your mind, they can go back to lying and cheating and doing you dirty in peace.
This reminds me of all of those cases where the woman suspects that the man is cheating. She goes through his phone, and then he gets upset that she went through his phone, and now he's turned it around on her, and the whole argument becomes, you invaded my privacy, you had no right to go into my phone, now I can't trust you with my phone, when the big elephant in the room is, he has been cheating. And it always amazes me how men can really turn any situation into blaming you. Like, he can make any situation about you being the problem. No, I think that if you're cheating, you do not deserve privacy. You just don't deserve privacy because you can't be trusted. And now I need to know everything that you've been up to because I need to know what type of mess you have been in so I know how best to protect myself. I remember the first time I searched a phone and I confronted a man about the phone, and he did gaslight me about the messages that he was sending to another woman. And I asked someone about it just because of how he made me feel like I did something wrong. I was really young. I was really young. The me of now would never need to ask anyone what they think of that situation, okay? But I was really young, and I asked someone what they thought about what I had seen and how I reacted and how he reacted. And she was an older woman, like older woman, married and everything. And she said to me, and I'll never forget, she said, if you are not willing to leave that man over what you see in his phone, don't go in his phone. because I was basically like, I don't know what to do. He's messaging this girl and he's telling her all of these things. And she said, well, if you're not going to leave him, then stop going in his phone. Leave him be. If you're going to stay in that situation that's hurting you, you're basically hurting yourself. So leave him and his phone alone. And so that's my advice to any woman when it comes to searching phone and privacy. One, I don't think you deserve privacy if you're cheating. But two, if you are not going to leave, just don't search his phone. You're gonna find something. Chances are you're gonna find something. If you're not gonna leave him, don't search his phone. Leave his phone alone. What's the point in you knowing what he's doing if you're not gonna leave? And if it is that you're gonna stay with him regardless of what he does, then let him cheat in peace. Let him cheat in peace. That's just been how I think about it now because of all of the experiences that I've had.
Did you know that telling somebody what they think or how they feel is actually a covert form of abuse? I actually used to do this all the time, and it took me a long time to realize how abusive this behavior actually is. If you're new to my page, my name is Jackie, and I'm giving real examples of emotional abuse so that you can spot them in your relationships. Telling somebody what they think or how they feel is a sneaky, covert manipulation tactic. By doing this, the abuser is attempting to define your reality for you. It's a perfect example of gaslighting. They do this so that you stop trusting yourself, and it puts you in a position where they can control you. My ex would always tell me how I was feeling. It was so subtle, but it always felt off to me. He would constantly tell me that my energy was off. When he would get home from work, I would be in the kitchen making supper, and he would walk in, take one look at me, and say, "Whoa, what's wrong with you?" I would stop dead in my tracks because I was so confused. Like, what do you mean? He would say, "Your energy is off. You're sending out a vibe." I would tell him that I was fine because I thought I was. But for the next 20 minutes, you bet I was lost in my head trying to understand where this was coming from. I was just making supper. How is my energy off? He would accuse me of being mad or being in a bad mood when I knew that I wasn't. And when I would challenge his perceptions, he would say things like, "I know everything about you. I know you better than you know yourself." That's so incredibly frustrating because you think that as an adult, you would know how to identify your own feelings. Like, I can feel physical sensations in my body that reflect my mood. So if I tell you I'm not upset or I'm not angry, why is it so difficult for you to accept that? But the more he would tell me how I felt and the more he would push his perception onto me, the more my energy would start to go off. I would show my frustrations, and it would give him a perfect opportunity to step in and say, "See, I was right. You are mad." I remember one time sitting on the deck. We were coming off of a crash of an abusive incident, and we were in the reconciliation phase of the abuse cycle. He was apologizing for his abusive behavior and making plans to do better when he said to me, "You really are mad at me, aren't you? You say you're fine, but I can tell that you're mad." I paused for a moment, and for the first time, I had a huge moment of clarity. I said, "No, I'm not mad at you. I'm actually mad at myself." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I left my marriage because I didn't want to role model an unhealthy relationship for my daughter, because I know the long-term trauma that has on children. I promised myself that I would never find myself in that situation again, and yet here I am. So I'm not mad at you, but I'm disappointed in myself for allowing this to continue." After that day, I never allowed him to have a say in my feelings ever again. After that day, I started to trust myself.
I love that. I love everything that she said. And I've heard that line before. I know you better than you know yourself. I've heard that line before and I hated it. I hated it. And also I also really don't like when people try to tell me how I feel. Like she said in her example, you look upset. You look sad. What's wrong with you? I didn't even say anything. I'm just minding my business. How are you telling me how I feel? And then it's going to make me think, like she said, it's going to make you think, is something wrong with me? Am I okay right now? You don't need that. That's really emotional manipulation and emotional abuse. And I don't like that. And I think people should just stop doing that in general. If you see me crying, if you see me crying, you can ask me what's wrong. But if I'm not crying and I'm just minding my business, you have no right to come up to me and tell me that what's wrong with you. I don't like that.
Number two thing you should never say to them:
Don't tell them that they are gaslighting you. There's absolutely no point in telling your abuser that they're abusive. When we say they live in a different reality, they really do. They perceive the world through cognitive distortions and logical fallacies. And this helps facilitate the belief that they are victims. This also makes it so that they're not able to draw the connection between their behavior and your reaction to their behavior. They operate from value systems rooted in entitlement, objectification, expectation of submission. So when you issue natural consequences to their abusive behavior, they feel like they're being abused. And that's when they point the finger at you, telling you that you are abusive. And that's when you go internally, right? You self-reflect, you Google search, you examine yourself, but eventually you figure it out. You figure out their definitions are incorrect. They're misusing and weaponizing terms. And because you've educated yourself on abuse and tactics and boundaries, you can see them blame shifting and avoiding accountability. You can see them twisting the narratives and leaving out pieces of information. And you start to see how they use logical fallacies and faulty thinking to fuel all of their arguments. You learn about cognitive distortions and you realize the way they see the world is actually faulty. If you start calling them an abuser, you're giving them one more thing to fuel their victim story, because only abusers point the finger and call you abusive. When you start to see that someone is abusive, either overtly or covertly, there is no point in telling them that they're abusive. Only logical thing you can do is plan your exit. No gaslighter thinks that they are gaslighting. There is an almost delusional quality to narcissism. They believe they are communicating clearly. They are entitled enough to believe that they get to have the upper hand, and they don't think there should be consequences for their behavior because they, of course, should never have to face a consequence. And they don't think their behavior is bad in the first place. Telling them that they are doing something like gaslighting, it doesn't work. Gaslighting is a tactic. It's a way for them to overpower, destabilize you, and keep you down. These are the signs of gaslighting in a relationship. I blame you for me doing you wrong. Sound crazy though. Let's just say I stay out all night, every night. And my wife said, why you never stay at home? The first thing I'm gonna say is, well, give me a reason to stay at home. It's bored here. You don't talk to me. Ain't no conversation. But the whole time, we always talking. The whole time, we always laugh. Any excuse to do what I want to do, I gotta find a reason to do. But I gotta use the person that I'm hurting to do it. So I can make them feel like they're doing wrong so they can change everything about themselves while I do what I want to do. Number two, you find something in their phone and they say, leave my phone alone. What? We're not gonna talk about what you did with the phone. We just talking about the phone itself. Like you didn't talk to this other guy. Like you didn't talk to this other woman. Look what you saying there. You saying you're gonna meet them Friday night at the club? Well, that's why I don't trust you. That's why I don't want a relationship. Look, if you don't want me, just say that. You know mental illness is real. And when you're doing something wrong to hide your guilt, you make me feel bad for me grabbing your phone where you did me wrong. Number three, they make excuses not to help you. They always say, I don't make that much money. You make all the money. Why you want my money? But we stay together. We use everything together. I want you to pay the small bill, but you can't do that. People that don't want to pay bills, they used to their parents paying bills because they stay with their parents all their life. All they know is somebody doing something for them. So when you're doing something for them, it's like arguing with your hard-headed child all day long about why they can't play the game because they did something wrong in school. You see what I'm saying? And they think what you're saying is nothing big. The last thing, they be flirting on the down low, and then they say, oh, I just spoke to her. I just had a conversation. Some of these folks be looking at the woman, look at the man, and you look at them like, damn, man, what you looking at them like that for? I'm right here. I'm just looking down. I don't want them. If they look good, they look good. What's wrong if you say somebody look good? I can't get nobody a compliment. Well, you jealous? Anybody that's with you, that's married to you, saying that you're jealous, think about that. They saying that you're jealous, but we are together in this relationship. I just don't understand that. How can I be jealous when I'm supposed to have you? So I wouldn't worry about them if I got you. So that means that I ain't really with you. You with yourself. I'm just here taking up space, right? Shit real like him, man.
Gaslighting phrases that narcs use to gaslight your reality. Number one, I was just joking. Why are you taking it to heart? I was just joking. Once they humiliated you, now they try to soften it with, You're just being sensitive. So they're just gaslighting you to feel like you're too sensitive to take their joke, which clearly wasn't a joke. I love you, right? See, what they're doing here is keeping this tight grip on you by using this fake reassuring sense of fabricated love because they're gaslighting you. Number three, I'm sorry you feel that way. But see, it's not them saying it, it's how they say it. It's more like well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Ooh, that was too scary. Yeah, it's more like you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not changing, so I'm just sorry that you feel that way, even though they're not sorry that you feel that way because they have no feelings, yet no feelings towards you. Duh. Number four. This one goes like this. Hey, can you do me a favor? Hey, I really need your help. Can you do something for me? If you've been with a narc for quite some time, they have pretty much broken you down to now being a people pleaser to the narcissist. So therefore, that's their way of reeling you back in of pretty much needing you, not really needing you, but needing you to keep you around because they know they did you wrong. So, hey, can you do me a favor? I would really appreciate it. They don't appreciate nothing that you did for them. Gosh, I don't want to argue with you. Yes, you do, because that's all you love to do is argue. Need I say more? And six, after all I've done for you, what have you done for me other than cause me more misery and trauma that I need more money to go to therapy for? Thank you for the mental health crisis. I think that's enough. We don't need to go no more. That's it.
Listen, mental health is something I'm really trying to take more seriously. And that's why I'm trying to bring these topics across because these are subtle things that ruin our mental health. And I think if we are more aware and we can recognize when someone is doing this to us, we can avoid it. We know how to confront it and we can ultimately leave that situation before it reaches to a point where we are in full blown panic mode. We're having panic attack, we're having anxiety attacks, and we are just living with anxiety. And it's really important that we take care of our health, our physical health, our mental health, and that in relationships we are with people who make us feel emotionally safe and where we don't have to be walking on eggshells with anyone because it's truly not worth it. There is no relationship that's worth walking on eggshells. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video.